G'day YouTube, Tim here. Today I'm just going to show you a little video on how to air layer a plant. The propagation of plants is quite an interesting one, and this is one method of propagating plants. It's similar to a cutting, but the plant is actually still feeding off the main tree while it produces roots, so it's a lot more successful than a cutting. You can take much larger cuttings in one go, so when it's developed roots, you're left with a fairly decent sized small tree. There's two ways that I know of to air layer, and I'll cover both of those in the video. This is a fig tree I'm going to do today. I've chosen a nice branch off it that I'd like to propagate into a new tree, and so we'll see how we go with it. But first we'll just pop inside and I'll make up some bags that we need for the process, and we'll get that done and pop back out here and actually show you how to take an air layering off a tree. Okay, so what I do with the bags is, this is just a freezer bag, a large freezer bag, and this is just what I use. You don't have to use one of these, any piece of plastic will do. I guess it's somewhere around 400 millimeters by 300 millimeters. Dimensions again aren't critical, this is just to give you an idea on what you'll need. So I like to get duct tape. To about the length of the bag, and get the knife, cut that down, and then fold the bag in half, just like this, and then tape that up. Roll the tape over. So now what you're left with is basically a smaller bag that's open on both ends. Now I like to use I double it up this way to keep the wall thickness of the plastic up, because these bags are quite thin. If you're using a thinner bag you might not need to, but that's the way I like to do it. Now this is good if you can slide it over the branch. If you're taking a larger branch, which we will be in a tick, this won't work because you can't slide it over, so we'll make another one out there around the branch, and just go from there. So I'll just grab some cable ties, because cable ties are another thing you can use, you need. If you don't have cable ties you can just use tape again, but the cable ties certainly make it a bit easier. So we'll pop back out there and get this around the tree. Okay, so we're back out here, and this is the branch we're taking. It's sort of entwined with another tree, so forgive that. It branches out there, forks up top, and then comes up to here. And that sun's in a terrible spot too, but comes up there. So it is a reasonable size we're taking. It's about a 1/2 inch in diameter, and I've already put the bag around it, made the bag around the branch. I just did that off camera because it's pretty fiddly and I didn't want to waste your time, but you saw how I did that inside anyway. So the next step that we do is, let's bring this in focus, we choose a point on the branch. Now with a knife, a sharp knife and a sterile knife, you want to cut all around the cambium layer, and then come down maybe, normally I go 1 inch, but this is a larger one, so I'm going to go maybe 1.5 inches, and cut this again all around the cambium layer. Now try just to go through the cambium layer. Don't put on so much force that you cut through the cambium layer. You just want to take the bark off. And now we do a score in between those cuts, and you need to, and then remove the bark from around it. Now these sometimes just roll off quite easily, and sometimes they take a bit of persuasion. So if we just make a start there, the larger branches are usually easier to get the bark off. It's coming off in sections, but that's okay. We just want to keep doing this until we're around the branch. A good grafting knife makes this process easier, but you can use a pocket knife. I used a pocket knife for many years before I got the grafting knife, which was actually a birthday present a while ago. So I don't think you need the grafting knife to do it. So we're almost there. Peeling away. Just do it with your fingernails if you can. It seems to be working. Now fig trees are great to do this with because I've never had one fail. They love to put out roots and they're really suited to air layering. If you like the idea of air layering and do some research, you'll find that you can't do every plant with the air layering process. It only works on a large amount, but not every single plant. So there we go. That's all nice and cleaned off there, and that's exactly what we want. So the next step is I've got a cable tie here, and we're going to, you can see it through the bag, I'm going to bunch up the bag about a 1/2 inch below, 1 inch below our exposed cambium. I'm going to cable tie that. Out there. So now we're left with a pocket, if you will, that encompasses the branch. Now, soil. I've got some just potting soil in this bag. Now this is one of the only times I'll say a quality potting mix isn't really necessary. This is a quality potting mix just because I have it around, and I normally always recommend to buy a quality potting mix, but this doesn't need to be a good quality. It's purely just a growing media. Try and get most of it in the bag there. It's purely just a media for the roots to grow into. It's not actually feeding the branch. Of course, when you cut it off, you'll and put it in a pot, you'll want to use good quality potting mix. So now that that's full, you don't need heaps. That's enough. That's probably a good sized handful. We'll just bunch it around the branch, and I'll get another cable tie. And put it on. Now it's important your potting mix isn't dry, but you don't want it soaking wet either. So this is, as the potting mix comes in the bag, it's that nice damp moisture content. That's what I've got in the bag here. And because it's in the bag, it sort of stays, it doesn't really lose that much moisture, and it still is getting moisture from the flow through to the branch above it. If it is really hot and gets dry, you can just puncture the hole in there and add a little water. But you don't want to have it sitting in soggy conditions, because then you can promote rot, which obviously isn't good for the air layering. Not such a big issue with fig, because fig seems to be very hardy with layering, but just keep it in mind. So that's done. We'll leave that for a while. I'd say in a month you'd start to see some vigorous, healthy roots showing through the bag, and at that point in time, just get some secateurs and cut underneath your air layering to separate it, and that goes in a pot and treated as a small tree. So I'll just show you the next way of air layering, which is essentially the same thing but easier. This is best for where you can't lay a branch onto the ground, and the way I'll just show you now works really well for if you can lay it on the ground. So here's one that I air layered about a year ago, and I've forgotten about it. I must have missed it when I collected all the other ones. It's quite dried out, but what we'll do is we'll cut it underneath, and I'll cut this bag off it. I'll just do that. You can see, so this is what you do when the one you just saw is ready. Knife might make it easier if I can find it. Trying to not make this video too long. I don't think it's that interesting, me yabbering on. I'll just do a cut down there. Okay, but this is a really good example. Now, I should have cut this off a long time ago, but it's probably still usable. It's still alive and sprouting on the tops of the branches, on the tips, so that's all right. Do another cut here, and I'll shake this off the soil, open these roots up, and here, I mean, you can see the effectiveness of it. There's a lot of root there. Now I'll soak this in a bucket for a couple of hours to rehydrate these roots, and then I'll just plant this in a pot, grow it out in the pot a little, and then plant it in the ground. So, I mean, where you see the roots coming out from, that was my bark that was cut off to the cambium layer. Yeah, that was good that I did forget to harvest this one, because then I could actually show you. Now I can show you what it actually is, and you can see the root growth on there. You'll see half of this root growth in a month with the one that we just did in the spring and summertime. So it's pretty quick. But I'll just plant this out in a pot, and I might do a part 2 for the next air layering, just because this video is running a bit long. So we'll catch you in part 2. Thanks, guys.